Hey guys, as always, thanks for stopping by. Whose responsibility is your safety? Yep, let's talk about that. Today's episode is brought to you by all of you Patriots. Every thumbs up is a huge help. I won't belabor it today. Just want to say thanks for crushing that like. I'd go through a pandemic any day with you Patriots. A lot going on right now. There's other YouTubers that have covered a lot of the stuff over the last several days. It was a busy weekend up in the Northwest. And folks are talking about it. It's a big deal. It's got me thinking, and I want to ask y'all a question today. I know the easy answer is it's personal responsibility. Who's responsible for your safety and your family's safety? Well, of course, we're all going to say we are on some level. But I think there's a couple keys that I want to get down to you guys or get out to you guys just to get you thinking. Because as I talked 2 weeks ago, how we think affects how we act, and that's important. I'm going to get back to that at the very end, but I am going to have a question for y'all, and I do want to hear what you have to say, and I mean that. I love our conversations down below. It's a lot of fun. Now, let me go through a couple caveats or a couple speaking points just to get you thinking, and then I'm going to get you some information that I think may help you. Some of you may really enjoy taking this a step further and learning some more things. Now, there's a lot more going on out west. Y'all are covering it and y'all are talking about it. There's other YouTubers that are really getting into this stuff. But I've got a question that I'm really working on for myself. Whose responsibility? Well, I tell you who it's not. It's not the Thin Blue Line's responsibility. Now, anytime we mention that, whose responsibility is it? The first question that's going to come up, or maybe the first commentary is, it's going to be the Thin Blue Lines. And I'm telling you unequivocally, it's not. And I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. Now, one thing I do want to say, whenever we think about personal responsibility, especially about those of us in this community, we're always thinking break-ins in the middle of the night, home protection, self-defense, home defense, middle of the night, flashlights. And that's just not reality. Most of us think that way. We think about middle of the night break-in. What would I do? And I think that's fantastic. When I was at Thunder Ranch a few weeks ago, Clint got us thinking very clearly about what we would do, making a plan, how we would act, and then the repercussions of lighting something big off in the middle of the night in a hallway when we have night vision, not like night nods, but like our vision is not ready for such bright lights and our ears are not protected. What is that going to be like standing in your boxer shorts lighting off the big Rudy Tooty point and shooty? It's important how we think about that. But want to say that I said all that to say this: the average break-in is at 2 p.m. on a weekday. People don't come in the middle of the night. Yes, it happens, but that is the exception, not the norm. So my point is, often the way we think is not what reality is. Break-ins is a great example. They happen in the middle of the day. Now, right now, there's a lot of folks that are wanting to take away the Thin Blue Lines, their budgets, and there are repercussions from that. It's happening right now. Like the talks are taking place and talking about stripping the Blue Line of their budgets. There's also ongoing stuff that those folks do, the Blue Line, that we can't. We've talked about this last week, that a lot of guys will say, I'll protect myself. Well, okay, that's fine. But I need some trained researchers to be able to go into a scene and to be able to do investigations and pull the data out of that scene that's needed to convict a bad guy. I mentioned rape kits the other day as well. It's a terrible subject. It's awful. But I want trained people handling that. And that's a separate issue for the Thin Blue Line and what they do that's outside of personal protection, but it is part of protecting our society. The Baltimore Sun has a great article that came up last week by Lott and Pertillo, and these two are exploring a little bit about how point and shooties do protect society. Also, shout out to that Ruger P model that was on that article. Not a bad pick. Now, they mentioned this, two things. There's a group of people, the ones that are against these things, and I'm being careful with my words. There's a lot of reasons for that. It's a complicated time and period on YouTube right now, but I'm being careful. But the ones that want to take this away, the ones that want to take them away, say just let the police do it. Let them handle things. And these are the same people that are trying to take their budget away. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, trying to have two things exist that are not coexistable. So it's a mess. This article is a really interesting read. I'll put a link to it down below. Check it out. I think it's really interesting, especially coming out of Baltimore right now. Now, speaking of the blue line, how long is it going to take from a 911 phone call to have help at your house? Well, the average response time in America is 11 minutes. That's according to a government website, federal level. The Bureau of Justice Statistics says 11 minutes. But the National Association of Sheriff's Departments, or the National Association of Sheriffs, they say their average response time is 18 minutes. That's a big discrepancy. Regardless, it's a long time. Now, there's other areas in our country where there is no response time. They're not coming. They are not coming to rural. Send an email or send up a smoke signal. They're not coming. There's also urban areas right now where they're only responding to certain crimes. And that is a challenge, to have a situation where you can only call in and get a response because of certain requests. Let's just say this, it's a mess. And it really is. It is a mess out there. I want to say this very clearly. I mentioned this one time about a month ago. It's really kind of the point of today's video is this. It's not the blue line's job to protect you. And that's not my opinion. That has been upheld multiple times at the level of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has ruled multiple times. It is not the thin blue line's job to protect you. And it's not. It really is. It isn't. And it doesn't matter what your opinion is. It doesn't matter what my opinion is. That is case law. Few examples: Warren versus D.C., Castle Rock versus Gonzales, DeShaney versus Winnebago County, Lozito versus New York, and then finally there were rulings following the Parkland situation down in Florida, and those rulings also upheld once again law enforcement has no responsibility to protect you. In fact, the entire idea of to protect and serve, that's part of a PR campaign from 1955 from the LAPD's Academy. They held a contest. The public were allowed to give suggestions on what the slogan for the Academy should be. And in 1955, it was submitted and adopted that to protect and serve was for the Academy. In the early 60s, it was adopted for the entire police department. It's a PR campaign, not law. And also, it's not how the actual workings of the day-to-day workings of those police forces, that's not how they actually flesh out what they do. Law enforcement's job, this is going to seem so simple, but this is what the law is. Law enforcement's job is to enforce laws. That's it. It has nothing to do with protecting you. Now, I opened with how we think affects our actions. What do you do with this? This conversation, what do you do? How do you flesh out in your own life your own personal protection? Again, it's got to be more than a bump in the night and jumping out of our bed and throwing on our kit and stomping barefoot through our house and just being excited to get a turn on that $300 flashlight. It's got to be more than that. And it's also got to be more than I think the way that we've been doing it here in the 2A community over the last 10 years. What's going on in the big cities right now is a mess, and we are seeing people that are not prepared to protect themselves. It's making me rethink myself, and I hope it's making you rethink your own safety situation. I want to ask you the question. What's your thoughts? Where are you at? Would love to hear your opinion on this and how you are, again, fleshing out the thoughts of protecting ourselves. I've got it here somewhere. It's in my lap. P365, and I like that. It's a good name, 365, all day, every day. This one's not currently loaded because I can't afford to feed it at this point in time. However, to anyone that is against us, our freedoms, this way of life, or my unloaded Rudy Tooty point and shooty from my cold, unloaded dead hands. Bye.